Okay, well, thanks for joining us today and welcome to our presentation on emotional branding. We're the two principals behind Harbor Marketing Associates. I'm Jeanette de Beauvoir.
And I'm Will Keyworth. Together, Jeanette and I have over half a century of marketing knowledge, experience, and passion to share. We'll talk a little bit more about what we have to offer at the end of this presentation, but for now, we're eager to get started.
So let's start with this. The concept of emotional branding isn't new. Dale Carnegie was the developer of famous courses in self-improvement, salesmanship, corporate training, public speaking, and interpersonal skills. He lived from 1888 to 1955, so that's not exactly yesterday, folks. And in case you're inclined to sneer at the self-help philosophy, consider that this stuff works, and it sells. The book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, has sold over 30 million copies since its first printing in 1936. And guess what? Carnegie advised business people to appeal to their customers' emotions.
Why appeal to emotions? Well, the typical salesperson is armed with facts and figures, stock responses to questions and objections, and is generally well prepared to sell a product or service. But the truth is, that isn't what you're selling. What you're selling is a way to improve someone's life, and you have to make them feel it.
Okay, and why else appeal to emotions? Because there's science behind it. Emotions help us rapidly choose between good and bad. They help us navigate a world filled with harsh noise and unlimited options. This concept's been reinforced by multiple studies, including ones conducted by neuroscientist Antonio Damasio, who examined people who are healthy in every way except for brain injuries that have impaired their emotional systems. Due to their lack of emotional senses, these subjects couldn't make basic decisions on where to live, what to eat, and what products they need to buy.
Why appeal to emotions? Because there's history behind it. You're going to hear us say this over and over. It's all about the story. This is how we, as humans, have for centuries, even millennia, made emotional connections with others, ourselves, the world around us, and the products and services we use. We'll be talking more about storytelling in a few minutes.
And why else appeal to emotions? Let the list go on. I'd say because it works. The Institute of Practitioners in Advertising's data bank contains 1,400 case studies of successful advertising campaigns over the last 3 decades. This particular analysis of the IPA data compared the profitability boost of campaigns that relied primarily on emotional appeal versus those that used rational persuasion and information. Campaigns with purely emotional content, performed about twice as well as those with only rational content. And those that were purely emotional did a little bit better than those with mixed emotional and rational content. Well, the study attributes this split to our brain's ability to process emotional input without cognitive processing, as well as our brain's more powerful recording of emotional stimuli.
And why appeal to emotions again? Because it gives good ROI. When people get really excited about a company with which they do business, they share their love with colleagues, friends, and family, brag about how great it is to work with your company and how clever they were to find you. Most importantly, they will passionately recommend your company to everyone who will listen. Retention is the way smart businesses are growing their customer bases. This is the new acquisition. While other companies spend the majority of their acquisition budget interrupting people with too frequent emails and in-your-face advertisements, smart marketers leverage the internet and focus on keeping their current customers both happy and armed with the tools and information they need to become brand advocates and ambassadors. Simple tools like shares, likes, F2F or face to face, when put in the hands of your most enthusiastic customers, can drive dramatic growth.
But of course, all of this means that we have to look at marketing differently. What we have to do is change our focus.
Emotional branding involves a tremendous shift in focus from products to people. Understanding people's emotional needs is the key to success. Companies have to take definite steps towards building stronger connections in relationships and recognizing their customers as partners. Emotional branding creates a personal connection and dialogue between your brand and your consumers.
And we're not just shifting focus from products to people, we're making an even bigger shift here. Consumers buy, people live. And Will, I got to ask you, how many marketers can you think of that see the consumer almost as the enemy? We call them campaigns. We got that from military language. Marketing plans shouldn't be a plan of attack.
Products fulfill needs, while experiences fulfill desires. If someone is buying to fulfill a need, then price point and convenience are the only factors to be considered. If a person is buying to fulfill a desire, though, then imagination, sensory experiences, and emotional connection will be the factors taken into account.
Marketers need to be honest with their customers, of course, that's a given, and customers expect them to be. But let's take a step beyond honesty and talk about trust. Trust is something different. Trust is earned.
Communicating with a customer has always involved telling them something, but dialogue is sharing, with listening being the marketer's main objective.
So now that we've got this introduction in place, let's look at where this all started. And it all started with charities. It makes sense that the first advertisers to catch on to the power of emotion were those who need donations and altruistic support. The only reason anyone donates to a charity or nonprofit is emotional. So places that support orphans or wounded veterans or crime victims or animals were quick to reach out via emotional videos, like this one.
I want to be a contender. I want a warm belly to sleep on.
A big house.
How do I look? Do I look good?
I want to play hard.
My nails done once a month.
I want.
I want a home. I just want a home. I want someone to love.
Last year, more than 30,000 companion animals came to us without homes. 20,000 of them were felines. Let's make some homes together.
And of course it works. It's a truth that we engage more, for instance, with the one child who was killed in a local car crash than we do with the 685 victims of an airplane crash that took place on the other side of the world.
Well, at some point, marketers looked at what was working in the charity and nonprofit arenas and realized, that the same approach could sell other things. And that's when we started getting all those touching Budweiser commercials during the Super Bowl. I know you've seen them. They don't push beer. They show horses, dogs, and occasionally children, none of which are in the beer drinking demographic. But people smiled, and people connected that warm, fuzzy feeling with the Budweiser brand.
Emotional branding is never about a hard sell. In fact, some commercials don't even feature the brand front and center. This mobile phone commercial from Thailand doesn't mention the brand name or even the product being advertised until the end of the commercial. Let's take a look.
ออกมานี่เลยนะไอ้ขี้ขโมยไหนดูสิเอาอะไรไปออกมานี่เอาไปทำอะไรเนี่ยฮะถามว่าเอาไปทำอะไรเอาไปให้แม่เจ๊แป๊บนึง
แม่ป่วยเหรอ
อย่าทำอย่างนี้อีกนะ
หมวยเกาเหลา
เ
จ๋อนั่งเลยครับนั่งเลย
ป๊า
อ่ะจัดไปอ้าวสั่งมาเร็วต่ออะไร
I have to say, Will, I still get teary-eyed every single time I see that clip. Well, if you've spent any time at all recently on the internet, then you're very well aware of the content curation site Upworthy and its appeal to your emotions. Click on any of its content and you'll cry, you'll smile, and perhaps most importantly, you will share. And that's the real place where emotional branding rises over all other branding efforts. As soon as someone sees one of these ads, photos, videos, even articles, they share them.
Sharing is the best advertising out there because it's both heartfelt and free. You couldn't pay for the kind of sharing when a video or meme goes viral. Social Media Examiner's 2013 Social Media Marketing Industry Report found that 89% of marketers surveyed said that their social media efforts had generated more exposure for their businesses. The second major benefit was an increase in traffic reported by 75% of respondents. 65% used it to increase the loyalty of fans and customers.
Well, here's the thing. Everyone thinks that they know that emotional branding works, just like they think they know that social media works, but most of the results have been anecdotal. However, Gallup Business Journal decided to put together a massive research effort to find out what is really happening out there. The first thing they found was that emotional connections are not only the province of certain emotional categories or brands. Consumers can be just as emotional about checking accounts and discount merchandise. Bank of America and Walmart create emotional connections just as surely as JetBlue and iPod do. They do it in different ways, depending far more on their people than on their products, but the result is the same. Gallup surveys have shown that 11% of U.S. car owners are passionate about the car they own. 13% are passionate about the place where they bank. I find that one extraordinary, frankly. And 12% are passionate about the mass merchandise retailers where they shop. You see, the thing is that people aren't either quote-unquote emotional or quote-unquote unemotional. Consumers are typically highly emotional about some brands and products and completely indifferent and unattached to others. And interestingly, business customers are as emotional about their B2B purchases as car buyers, clothing shoppers, and resort visitors are about their selection. The second thing that came up in the Gallup survey is this. Consumers' emotional connections have a specific and fairly simple structure, regardless of the nature of the particular emotions involved. As revealed by Gallup's customer engagement metric, the structure begins at the foundation of the customer relationship with confidence, then proceeds through integrity to pride to, at the pinnacle of the relationship, passion about the service, product, or brand. And the third finding is this. Emotional connections are not merely warm and fuzzy, nor are they simply interesting to contemplate and debate. They have powerful financial consequences, ranging from share of wallet to frequency and amount of repeat business. Fully engaged retail customers spend more and return more frequently than those who are disengaged. Retailers have taken action to enhance their customer engagement by capitalizing on the engagement-building skills of their own customer-facing employees, have seen double-digit increases in both sales and profit per square foot. Gallup has seen these results not just in the United States, but around the globe, and they've seen them for banks, auto dealers, hardware stores, and business service marketers. Emotional connections are universally important, and managing those emotional bonds pays off handsomely.
But emotions are moving front and center into the world of advertising. McDonald's Come As You Are campaign engaged emotions. This ad was seen in France in 2010. One example is a new overt gay presence. With marriage equality gaining ground throughout the United States, more and more American advertisers are following the groundbreaking French McDonald's video, producing tearjerkers that unite families over cars, graham crackers, and clothing. All of the gay-themed ads show love, caring, and acceptance, often through touching moments that leave the viewer dabbing at his or her eyes. Watch this next video.
Allô? Moi aussi je pensais à toi. Je regardais notre photo de classe. Toi aussi tu me manques. Faut que je te laisse, ça y est, mon père qui arrive. Je t'embrasse. Tiens. C'est ta photo de classe? J'avais la même tête que toi à ton âge. Je peux te dire, je faisais un vrai carton avec les nanas. Dommage qu'il y ait que des garçons dans ta classe. T'aurais toutes tes chances.
So, if you've been paying attention to what we've been saying and showing you, then you know by now that you don't have to make a direct link between your product and the feeling you want associated with it. You only have to link them in your prospect and customers' minds. This is absolutely the best way for you to stand out from your competition, by going in a completely different direction and seizing a new demographic. So, how do you do it?
To help you strike an emotional chord with your audience, veteran marketer Barry Feig has carved out 16 hot buttons in his write-up, Hot Button Marketing, Push the Emotional Buttons That Get People to Buy. This is a great list, but not everything on it will work for you. Think about your ideal customers. Remember, we're talking people here, not products. And pick out 3 or 4 of these hot buttons that will appeal to those people, and focus your branding efforts around them.
So this one is a slide for you to save and look at later, because I'm not into just reading off of slides on PowerPoint presentations. But do look at this again and again, because it's essentially showing you the life cycle of emotional buying, which is as opposed to emotional branding. For each of these stages, you need to situate your customers, the people you're entering into dialogue with, the hot buttons you've identified for them, and then you need to move them along this continuum. It will take time, but don't worry, believe me, it's well worth the effort.
So, we promised earlier that we'd circle back to storytelling, and here we are. For instance, one ad agency worked with a pizza maker to differentiate their pizza from all the other pizzas available. Before, the pizza maker had touted the benefits of its pizza with dismal results. Its Vita Pizza product had fewer calories than any competitors. However, its message was getting lost among millions of other messages. The ad agency encouraged the pizza maker to tell a story instead. A relationship concept was formed, and a campaign was soon launched with the following key messages. You used to love pizza, and then the love affair ended. You've changed, and thankfully, pizza has too. Now you and your pizza can be together again. The agency then tested different ads, each centered on one of the following themes. Sweepstakes, 190 calories, gluten-free or natural, and how about this one? You and pizza, reunited and it tastes so good. I love that one. The brand idea outperformed the other ads by a margin of 3-1. Bringing a story into the equation resonated with the target audience.
I love that story about the pizza. And the thing is, well, stories aren't just about facts. Everybody knows that the best stories are the ones that stay with us long after the book is closed or after we've left the movie theater. The same goes for business storytelling. You want your customer to keep thinking of you.
So the conclusion to all of this is that we need a new business model. The old way of pushing products that people don't want is ending, and businesses are now engaging people with offerings that inspire. A new business model that emphasizes connection versus arrogance and inspiration instead of hype is taking its place.
Now, remember the shift in focus we talked about earlier in the presentation? Instead of doing a product review and figuring out how to reposition yourself so that you can add kittens into the mix, what you should do instead is figure out what your audience wants. What are the needs and the desires of the people you want to reach? Who are they? What do they dream about?
American demographics are changing. We looked at the power of advertising to include the gay demographic. But do you know enough about other cultures' values to be able to market to a melting pot? American marketing has traditionally been aimed at a white audience. Understanding the African American culture means tapping into 15.8% of the population. Hispanic Americans represent 11.4% of the population. Asian Americans are 10.5% of the population, and that's just looking at the biggest numbers. People will respond to companies that understand them.
And women represent 50.7% of the U.S. population, and they influence or buy 80% of products sold, spending close to $1.5 trillion each year in America, and potentially above $20 trillion globally in the next 5 years. Mark Gobi has isolated 5 key elements that women as consumers prize. Respect, because actually they might know more about carburetors than you think they do. Individuality, women live multifaceted lives and want to be recognized for all their roles. Stress relief, women continue to be primary family caregivers at the same time they've expanded their business and recreational lives. And of course, connection and relationship.
No business can afford to neglect the 5 senses, as we know. If our products are all similar, we can differentiate ourselves in appealing to different parts of different people via lifestyle and image. Which senses are your customers most interested in?
So if you'll take a minute after this webcast to go to HubSpot and search on quote-unquote buyer persona template, what you'll find is a downloadable PDF that will help you, if you want, construct a picture of your ideal customer. This is time very well spent if you've not done this before. Knowing exactly who it is you want to engage is far more important than how you plan to engage them, because the how is going to flow from the who. It's not your job to figure out that you need kittens or rainbows or children in your marketing branding. It's your job to figure out who your customers are. That is what will give you all the information you need on what story to tell them.
The new hashtag emotional branding indicates the level of interest in the trend. With so much of our lives lived out in the online world, it makes sense that connecting with emotions there is natural and worth monetizing. Playing to people's hearts means, in the digital world, far more online sharing, and that translates into dollars.
So thanks so much for bearing with us here. This has been a presentation by Harbor Marketing Associates. I just want to tell you that our goal is to help brands and businesses navigate the perplexing world of marketing and devise and implement a strategy that works. If you have any questions or comments about anything you've seen and heard during this webcast, or you just want to find out more about how we can help your brand, here's how to reach us.